Finally, let's explore the idea of Mars. When we think about Mars, we think about energy. The energy that animates the human vehicle. So pure energy, another word to say it is pure spirit. So whenever we think about energy or spirit or masculine energy, we're thinking about Mars. When we break down the letters of Mars, we get 6, which is a number of harmony. So when we piece it together, the 6 with energy or harmony with energy, we get to harmonize the flow of energy. Now the question arises, how does one harmonize the flow of energy? Let's take it a step further. When we think about Mars, and again, if you watch my video on me breaking down Saturn, I told you the difference between the 9 planets and the 7 planets. Now we know, when we deal with newer astrology, we know that Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. But when we go by the system of Hermeticism, Mars rules not only Aries, but also Scorpio. So from that perspective, we're going to explore these ideas. So we have Scorpio and Aries. Scorpio is the 8th house. Aries is the 1st house. The 8th house deals with mysticism, being able to see beyond the surface. The 1st house deals with self-image, how we see ourselves. Now, this mysticism is a water attribute, or Scorpio. The self-image is a fire attribute. So we have the mixing of fire and water, or opposites. Because you can say self-image and mysticism don't really go together. One is really about perfecting your self-image, getting your body on point, getting your physicality on point, getting your confidence up, staying true to who and what you are, connecting with your source of light, whatever that may be for you in particular. Whereas mysticism deals with seeing beyond the surface. So Aries is dealing with the surface image, whereas Scorpio is dealing with the deeper crevices that's going beyond the canvas that we see and call life. Now, to piece all this together, because they do have a correlation. What is the correlation between mysticism and self-image? The correlation is, it is through mysticism that you can purify or recalibrate your self-awareness. So let's write that down. Purification of self-awareness, meaning when you look beyond the surface, when you go beneath the waters of the ocean, sticking your head beneath the water so that you can perceive what goes on underneath the water, which you cannot use your eyes to do. If you was to stick your head into an ocean, you would not be able to see because it's dark. So mysticism gives us the ability to perceive when we cannot rely on our eyes, which we may call intuition or psychic ability or psychic potential, going into the psychic realm or the subtle realm or the quantum or the mystic realm of reality, being able to know what's going on based on how it feels. So if you feel a certain type of way, you should be able to sense auras. You should be able to tell who's in front of you without being able to place your eye upon them. And it is through the purification of the mysticism, which teaches you how to go beyond the surface, that gives you the ability to perfect your surface, because you understand that it is always mind over matter. For example, you may see somebody who's physically fit, or somebody who's confident, who's very self-aware, who's very knowledgeable of their culture and where they come from. But you could do the exact same thing that they are doing on the surface and not get the same results that they have achieved. Why is that? Because you would say, okay, well, long as you hit the gym, long as you stay active, long as you continue to be true to yourself, you should be okay. But mysticism tells us that all is meant to. Mysticism taps us into the universal law. Mysticism taps us into the quantum world. How to transmute waves into particles. How to go from the unseen to the seen, because it is the unseen that powers the seen. It is the immaterial world that powers the material world. So based on those principles, we see that the purification of self-awareness lies in the ability to go deep into the mystic waters and come out reborn with a new self-identity or self-awareness. Going deep into the ocean, baptism, to baptize yourself. So when you rise back up to the surface, you have a whole new perspective of life. Taking it a step further, when we take it to the tarot, the card that represents Aries is the Emperor. The card that represents Scorpio is Death. And the card that represents Mars is the Tower. The Tower represents sudden change, sudden unexpected change. The Emperor represents desire or will. And Death represents emotion and the purity of being able to stay transparent with your emotions. So not just emotions for the sake of emotions, but the ability to remain transparent with your emotions when dealing with life. So what does it mean when we bring all this together? So we have desire / will, emotion, and the transparency of emotion with sudden change. What this means is, even in the midst of chaos, because that's what the Tower represents, a lightning bolt striking one's foundation, which causes complete madness or causes a person to reevaluate what they're doing. Let's just say, you put all your money into a business deal, it went under. So now you have to start from scratch, even though you had the highest expectations of the business deal going through and you doubling, tripling your money. However, it didn't work out like that. So Energy of death teaches us, even in the midst of a sudden, unexpected change, can we remain transparent in our emotions? Because when we start coloring the world with how we feel, which may not be rooted in truth, it may be true, but it's not rooted in truth. What I mean by that is, what's true is you just lost your money. But the truth is that you don't have to feel no type of way about the loss. You choose for that loss to color your emotions, which will reflect in how you see reality, because now your emotions are clogged and fogged up because you are feeling a certain type of way about the loss. However, if you can remain transparent, even in the midst of sudden change, what it will do is it will increase your desire and your willpower, which strengthens your self-image. What that means is to remain transparent in your emotions allows you to purify yourself. In other words, instead of saying, I took a major loss, I don't know how I'm going to recover, it becomes, I took a major loss. Let me see, not necessarily what I did wrong, but what did I do right? Because I didn't do everything wrong. There were some things done correctly, and I need to maximize what was done correctly. Instead of focusing on the failure, we focus on what was done correctly and to maximize the things that were done correctly, because all things were not done wrongly. In other words, you didn't do everything wrong. There's always things that were done right, and you can either maximize or minimize those attributes. I give up, or let me continue to explore, enhancing your desire or will because you want to maximize what worked. So when you don't allow a sudden change to completely destroy your spirit, you instead allow that sudden change to amplify your spirit. It increases your desire and your will to succeed, which brings forth a purification of your self-awareness, because it makes you have to reevaluate, maybe even start over from scratch. But you don't mind starting over from scratch because you understand that every failure is just a precursor to success if you don't give up. Now let's take it to the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet. So we have Mars. M is master. A is a law, ruler, self-savior. M is the 13th letter. You got 1, 18, and 19. Master, a law, ruler, self-savior. Now, what is a savior? Because savior has been coming up a lot. So just to be clear, what is a savior? A savior can be said to be a light bearer, an enlightener, a magi, or a magician, or a redeemer. So, when we say we are saviors of self, that means you are your own enlightener. You are your own light bearer. You are your own magi, and you are your own redeemer. And it all comes from self. Now, moving forward. Master a law, ruler, self-savior. What does that mean? Mastery of a law which is God consciousness, is the true measurement of one's ability. So as we were saying, mastery of a law is mastery over the desire, the will, the emotion, and the sudden change. In other words, to not allow anything to throw you off of your square, because we know a master has knowledge and understanding of his culture or her culture. In other words, to understand something gives you a clear view of what that something is, to the point where you have developed your own sense of awareness when it comes to the knowledge that you have embraced. So the knowledge that is embraced has allowed you to have a self-awareness. You now see yourself in your culture, as opposed to your culture being something that you practice. You see yourself as a culture. The culture is you. So mastery of a law, mastery, having knowledge and understanding of one's culture, which is you. The culture is you. Mastery of one's culture, which is a law, which is God consciousness. Being able to grow and develop in your own divine consciousness by tapping into self. Because as we said, self is the savior. Self is the redeemer. Self is the magi. Self is the enlightener. And self is a light bearer. Mastery of a law is the true measurement of one's ability to be able to master your desire, your emotion, your thought, which are the precursors to what materializes in front of one's eye, or the manipulation of light and the manipulation of sound. So mastery of a law, the manipulation of sound, is a true measurement of one's ability. When we are truly able to master sound, bringing words into matter, sounds into matter, we understand the process of creation. We understand that we are only limited by how far we can see. As we were talking about earlier, being able to still see with your eyes closed. That's the true measurement. The God consciousness, essentially, whenever we're talking about God or the concept of God, we're talking about the unseen, something that can't be seen but can be perceived. Using the other senses. You may not be able to perceive it with your eye, but you can sense it with your sixth and your seventh senses. You can still sense God, even if you can't see it. Now, to be able to sense things with your sixth and your seventh sense is the true measurement of your ability, because there are just things that go on around us that cannot be seen, heard, but they can be felt. So the deeper we go into the sixth and the seventh senses of intuition and psychic ability, mysticism, to purify our self-awareness so that we come out of the waters baptized and emerge new and reborn. Not go through a physical death, but going through a mental and a spiritual death. That is the mastery of a law, because now you are saving yourself, because you have not only put yourself in whatever situations we may go through, but we also can get ourselves out of any situation we may put ourselves in or go through. So we can put ourselves into anything, and we can get ourselves out of anything. We can go to the depths of hell, and we can rise to the vastness of the heavens. And it's all within, what do we choose to be enlightened by? What do we choose to bear our light in, or under, or without? In other words, what do we choose to direct our energy? What do we choose to get our source of information? Where is our source of light? Are we the true magi's or magicians of our world, which is being able to wield all five of the elements, fire, water, air, earth, as well as spirit, so that we can redeem ourselves and come back with a new rebirth in consciousness? There you have it.